Welcome in, everybody. We are live right here on the NFL Draftcast. This is Win Daily Sports. I'm your host, Tony Gatto, joined as always by Jason Mizrahi and Mr. Dave Gleckner. We have a special guest tonight, but before we get to that, make sure, as always, you know the deal. You like, you subscribe, and you're following Win Daily Sports on all social formats. This is the NFL Draftcast, where we get to pick our players live, where the audience gets to pick their players, and we get to see who wins week to week, because you never know who's going to throw a monkey wrench into things. But Jason, I'll lay it right over to you, man. Introduce our VIP guest for week 3 right here.
Yeah, the VIP guest this week is none other than the king, a guy who's a good friend of mine, Scott Engel. He works at the Game Day right now. He works over at Rotoballer. He writes for Seattle Seahawks. He's a big Russell Wilson fan. We'll talk about that in a second. But Scott, man, I appreciate you being the official first guest of the NFL Draftcast. And just a backstory, Tony and Dave. When I first started WinDailySports.com, Scott was my first hire. And he pretty much came in and he showed me the ropes. He introduced me to a bunch of people. So I wanted him to be the first guest on our flagship NFL show this season. So, Scott, man, I appreciate you stopping on by. You can formally introduce yourself, man. You host SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. We've done plenty of shows together. How you feeling tonight, man?
Good. Thanks for having me. Good to be with you guys. I guess it's better to be a Russell Wilson fan than a Zach Wilson fan like you. But it's I'm glad to be here. Great to see how good Win Daily is doing. Not just surviving but prospering, and it's been a great story, and to see you build the staff.
Appreciate that, man. It does feel like survival mode. And I want to ask you, Scott, if you can go back to where it all first started, what was your first job in the fantasy sports industry, and how did you secure that position? Because a lot of people hit me up all the time, looking for an opportunity, and they don't come prepared. Some people come prepared. Some people don't know what they want to do. How did you get started? We know you're a Hall of Famer in the Fantasy Sports Hall of Fame, but how did you get that first start?
I went to college for journalism, and I always recommend to everybody, if you can write well, you can do everything, anything. People always want to be on video and podcasts. It's very competitive, but if you can write, you'll always have somewhere to hang your cliched hat, so to speak. I think being able to communicate effectively and spell things correctly is important. I went to college for journalism. I originally wanted to be a sports writer, but when after college, I was working at a sporting goods store, and they had a fantasy football league, and I won the first time I ever played, and it was IDP. And then I got a job at Sportsline USA, which was later to become CBS Sportsline, which later became CBSSports.com. And I got hired in the newsroom, and I wasn't happy because I just felt too restricted. And they said, look, we have an opening in the fantasy sports department. We think you'd be good for it. And I became the first ever writer for Sportsline, full-time fantasy sports writer and editor for Sportsline USA, and eventually grew to become senior writer and managing editor, and hired some other Hall of Famers such as Tristan Cockcroft, Michael Fabiano, David Ganos, Daniel Dobish, who's well known in the betting circles, works on several sites. We had basically an all-star team. So it was a fun 8-year run there, and then I went on to ESPN for a while, helped found Roto Experts, and now I'm at the Game Day after being back at CBS for a little while, which is a fun run.
So let me ask you, now you're over at the Game Day. What's your favorite part of the job today? Is it still writing? Is it doing shows? Is it hosting SiriusXM? What's your favorite part?
I like the fact that I get to write, but at the Game Day, I just don't write fantasy. I get to spread my wings. I hate using cliches. I'm going to kick myself for doing that as a writer. But, I get to do a lot. I write a lot of sports betting. You can check out my props picks every week. I do a lot of futures. in NFL, NBA, baseball. I do some NASCAR too, as you know, and it's a fun position. We all launched two new sites: the GameDayBaseball.com, the GameDayFootball.com, where I actually get to write straight stories. Stuff that's regular things when I get media credentials and go out to Major League Baseball or the NFL and do interviews. I can write regular journalism stories and go back to my roots as a sports writer.
So let's have some fun questions. I bust your balls all the time
Yes,
about your
you
idol,
try. You
your
try.
idol Russell Wilson, and I'm not gonna even ask the question: is he elite anymore? I want to ask you the question: is he even good anymore?
Well, if you're going to ask me who my favorite player is nowadays of all time, it's Richard Sherman.
Okay.
Russell was tied with him, but when he wanted to leave Seattle, he for his own reasons, uh, I was disappointed by it. I wish him well and everything, and eventually they'll retire his number. And I appreciate everything he did in Seattle. As a player now, he's certainly not elite anymore. Sean Payton's trying to get him right. He's still a good deep passer, but he's just not as mobile as he used to be. Prime Russell Wilson was a playground football player, as people would say. He would he would move around in the pocket, spin around. He was so exciting to watch, and then you just hit this deep ball or this creative play, and Russell's not that type of quarterback anymore, and it's a transition. It totally fell apart the first year. Hopefully, over time, Sean Payton can transition him more into something different as a passer. I think we've seen some early steps of improvement. Nobody's given him a lot of credit for it, but you know, I got a Geno Smith player shirt now. I've moved on. I know he's the greatest Jets quarterback of all time, but I've moved on. Ask me who my favorite Seahawk player of all time. It's Richard Sherman.
Gotcha, man. Real quick, yes or no question. Will the Mets win a championship in the next 25 years?
Yes, they'll probably win one in the next 10, I think. And I know your Philly fan friends don't want to hear that, but they saw one recently, so you guys should be happy. I believe with Steve Cohen, with the ownership now, he's going to do everything he can to win. When it didn't work, when spending money on all the free agents, he tore it down, ate the money, rebuilt the farm system, and he's going to do what it takes to win. I saw the same thing in Seattle the first year with Pete Carroll. They made so many changes to the roster. They just ripped everything up, and if a player wasn't working, he was gone. And that's what everything's from ownership on down, front office on down. People forget that Pete Carroll's not just the head coach; he's the executive vice president. So I'll school you on this. As a Jet fan, you probably don't know what winning looks like. So I'll tell you. You know, when it's from ownership on down. You can tell when there's winning in an organization. And even though the Mets haven't won on the field, I believe they have a winning owner. Bringing in Stearns will help. A lot of people kill Epler, but I think he has made some good moves. And I think they got the right structure in place.
Well, good news is it looks like Alonso and the Mets have agreed. Audience, I have one question for you, Scott, and then we're going to get into this draft cast. When you're not watching sports or playing fantasy, what are your three favorite things to do?
Let's see. Probably binge, probably watch Rocky movies for like the billionth time. Like I'm just like Rocky nerd. Like they actually have like Creed comic books out now that I'm checking out. Looking to binge watch some stuff. Like I really like the Lakers series, Winning Time. I know it's exaggerated, but it's so good. I'll binge some Star Wars. I still haven't watched the new series, but Obi-Wan Kenobi was fantastic. Like I'm a big Darth Vader fan. Uh, Trying to think what else is like.
I was gonna guess Chipotle. I was gonna guess eat Chipotle, go to Kiss concerts, but you went boring Star Wars. So
well, I'm not the big Kiss fan I used to be. I'll explain that at another time.
Okay.
But eating good pizza and food. I live here in Queens. There's great pizza. If nothing else, there's great pizza. So I guess that and drinking Dr. Pepper, is anything that tastes good.
All right. So let's kick it back over to Dave. Dave, how do we do last week, man? I'm assuming I lost. I'm assuming after Joe guarantees victory, he took it down, and he's probably watching and celebrating somewhere right now.
You know what? He should celebrate because he put together one heck of a lineup last week. He kind of left us in the dust. His picks right there with Keenan Allen and Puka Nacua, on a Wednesday, hitting those two to pop over 30 on DK were just tremendous. We knew, good chance on Saquon, but his other star pick was Nico Collins. When Houston got down, that's the kind of game you want because they were going Nico in a very fast-paced offense. Coming in second was Tony. Tony outpaced me by a little less than 3 points. His Baker to Mike Evans combo.
Baker Mayfield. Oh.
Who would have thought it? But more importantly, he hit on the McCaffrey. And if he didn't get 2 goose eggs from Bryson Hopkins and the Rams, we might have been talking about a champ. So the Baker.
Well, I'm gonna go with Tony a little bit here, with all respect, and I enjoyed Tony on the radio too, and he's a good guy. But karma came to bite Tony. Tony, you gotta back up your boy. You going after my guy Frank Imirante last week. Frank is my boy. That's my boy. Yeah. So much respect for you, but you can't call out Frank and expect to win. That karma came to bite.
Come on, Dave. Tell him, man. Tell him, Dave.
Play some Taylor Swift right now. That karma got you, boy. But
anyway. Please don't play Taylor Swift.
I was kidding.
Please don't play. My ears can't take that auto-tune. No.
But I did, came in third, and we're going to have to switch things around this week. But Jared Goff was the third highest scoring quarterback at a good price. And then, Jason, I know you got excuses every week. What's yours this week? Anthony Richardson getting hurt? Come on.
You guys know him well already, don't you?
Anthony Richardson was on pace for like 40 DK points, man. 40 DK points. Yeah, I lost, man. I lost. I'm not taking the first pick no more. So, Scott, you get to decide, man. That's the rules here. You're the guest. Dave will tell you all the rules right now, how we get this thing going. But it looks like you have a choice of your pick. If you want the first, second, third, fourth pick, we're doing our snake draft. You guys know the deal by now.
I'm going to take the first pick.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Good stuff. I'm going to put in order this week. So, Tony, you get to pick because you were the highest of us three. Where you want to draft next?
I'll go second.
All right. Let me put this. I like it. I
guess whoever's next is going to go third.
I'm not.
Simply, yeah.
I'm not. I'm going last. I'll take the wheel route. I'll take the fourth pick.
The wheel route.
Yeah. And I'll put Jason. It confuses Jason when he's not on the ends, but we'll be all right. We'll be all right today.
That's all right, Scott. All you're gonna hear is you looked at Jason's cheat sheet.
No, I didn't. Yeah, just so everybody knows, purposely did not post a cheat sheet. The cheat sheet will come after the Draftcast, so none of you guys can copy my picks.
Love it.
Thank God.
All right, I'm gonna set up the overlay, Jay, and we can get this thing started. Tony, we're missing one thing.
Wait, before we start,
all right.
This is for specifically for Jason. All right, so
don't
we
pull
went
out
live
anybody from the game day. Scott's here. He's gonna get upset.
Hold on, Scott might like this too. I don't know what kind of fan Scott is here. Okay, but I know how big of a wrestling fan Jason is. So on Friday night, man,
if you smell what
he was back
is cooking.
Luckily, we can't hear Tony, which is great.
Yeah, we could.
Tony, luckily, we didn't hear anything you said, so I'm assuming you said you're not a fan of The Rock, wrestling is dead, it's fake, and all that kind of stuff.
For you. That's what I did. I played the song for you.
Okay. All right. We're good to go.
And I'm not a wrestling fan. I am a NASCAR fan. And follow my son, Sean Engel, on Twitter. If Sean, Engel. He is a fantasy DFS NASCAR expert. He won 3 more tournaments this past week and has won a dozen tournaments on DraftKings.
Awesome.
Nice.
That's not easy either, man. NASCAR is not easy.
It's not. And the thing about it is, why I'm so happy for him is, he doesn't use algorithms. And you guys know, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't use algorithms. Do what you have to win. Everybody's got a different approach. he just does his own lineups off of knowledge of NASCAR. So I can't help but brag about my son.
There you
Nothing wrong
go.
with that.
Love it.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, Dave.
Hey,
You
Tony,
ready?
wait, before we get started, let me just say one thing. Your
Yeah.
Rock analogy, did you see where he was Saturday night?
Saturday night?
He was hanging out with Dion. So I got to put some shades on for this show for my boy Dion in Colorado. Yo, you gave me the Rock entry. I got my shades for Dion. Let's get this thing started. Hit the bell.
We
Want to ring the
are
bell?
ready.
Ding, ding.
All right, we're on. Scotty, you go first, man.
All right. I think you hate to go chalk, especially when we're talking DFS. But to me, when you're building a DFS lineup, especially in a tournament, you can build around the chalk, and then diversifying around the chalk can still help you win. I have to go with Justin Jefferson, 9,300 on DraftKings. Both of these teams, the Chargers and the Vikings, are desperate this week, and they're 0-2, and the Chargers have allowed the most fantasy points per game to wide receivers so far. We know how good Jefferson is. He's hearing about how he's disappeared in the second half. He's going to put a full game together.
Love it. And I agree with the chalk analogy. Sometimes you got to play chalk and build around it. Love it.
Thank you.
Tony, you're up.
Well, Dave, I'm going to do something that I said I would never do.
Oh.
The entire offseason, bro, when we were on Sirius and we were doing mock draft after mock draft after mock, I said, why is this guy so high? Dave, just watching everything that's happened to running back after running back, man. Give me my man Bijan. He's just steady. He's easy, man. He's 20 easy. He just keeps getting better, man. He just can't get better. And Detroit does not scare me on their front. So give me Bijan.
He's going to get better every week, too. They're just going to open up the game plan for him. And you saw it last week. I think he took 60% of shares. You went with Algier last week. You learned your lesson, and you're back with some Bijan. I love it. All right,
Yeah.
Joe.
Running back is tough, man. We got Chubb, obviously, not a good look what happened to him, a couple nights ago. Eckler is questionable, so running back's going to be
Eckler's probably not going to play.
Yeah, so he's probably not going to play. And for that reason, I'm going to take the value. Look, Scott, he said it. Justin Jefferson should be the first person in your lineup. In cash games, he's still playable in tournaments. If he didn't take him, I would have took him. But this game, Chargers, Minnesota, highest scoring total on the board. Give me Kelly. I didn't play him much last week. I thought he was somewhat bad chalk last week. But this week, he does open up things. There's going to be points scored in this game. He's going to fall in the end zone. He's going to have a productive game against Minnesota. So give me Kelly. Nice price tag. I think he finally hits this week with no Eckler in a high-scoring game.
What? Did he rush for like 15 yards on 15 carries last week?
He ended up going 13 for 39, but Tennessee's a lot different.
Yeah, Tennessee is a lot different. Yeah. I think I don't see him as an upside play at all. I'm not recommending him in DFS for tournaments or nothing like that, because the guy over the course of his career has really shown us no upside at all, regardless of the matchup.
Yeah, and I will say this though, watching the Eagles just steamroll the Vikings, it's hard not to at least get enticed by a Chargers running game. But I hear you.
Yeah.
It's probably
I like it more of a cash game play than a tournament.
So you guys have started off kind of in the region I want to be. The game total is 54. We're talking Chargers Vikings. The next highest game totals out there, Denver, Miami, 48. That's a good game to be in. But you got to get in this environment. It's just, Scott said it earlier, desperate teams, 2-0-2 teams. I think they're going to have to roll out some different plays, different offensive tricks. They might have to do some Dan Campbell stupid stuff. I'm going to start with Kirk Cousins versus the 32nd ranked pass defense according to DVOA. Cousins has been great for fantasy. I think he's on pace for 7,000 yards and 72 touchdowns. Might not get there, but he'll get close. And I'll pair him up with TJ Hawkinson. If he doesn't throw to Jefferson, he's dialed in on that one tight end. So let me start with the Vikings passing combination. I feel good about it.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to that game too. Double stack. I'm going to go with Mike Williams. I love Keenan Allen, but Mike Williams gives me a discount here at 6,000, so I think he's the better value play on the board. one of these games he's going to have the Keenan Allen type game, and I think that comes this week. Big body, big receiver. He's getting the targets. Hasn't panned out to what I've liked to see out of him the past couple of weeks, but I think he goes over 100, gets a touchdown this game, gets you 25, DK points, and you should be sitting pretty at 6K.
I like it. And so far, Tony, you're the only jigsaw out there that hasn't touched this game.
And I'm not going to touch it because I should say, I should have put a drop in for you must have read my cheat sheet because Mike Williams was my guy, right? So, and so I don't know if I should feel good or bad that Jason picked him. So I'm really not sure. So I'm just going to go all in on a different game that I like because, one thing's for sure. Carolina stinks. They absolutely stink. They can't do anything on either side of the ball. I'm going to go with my man Gino. Gino had the bounce back game last week. They're at home. He likes to play well at home. And I think for 5,700, he's a really good value at QB. So I'm going to take Geno Smith.
Yeah, Tony, as these guys know, I'm a Seahawks fan and I write fantasy for Seahawks.com. FedEx Air Player of the Week for first time in his career. Really rebounded nicely in overtime after that big sack. Geno's proven that it's no fluke. Carolina, I think, allows the third most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. So I think that's a fine pick.
I feel good now. I feel good. Thanks, Scott. I feel good now. Jason doesn't give me that kind of feedback, so I appreciate it.
Jason, when I work with him, he's a different kind of motivator. He likes to motivate you by like putting you down. He's like a Bobby Knight kind of guy,
Yeah, Bobby Knight. I like it.
I can't see Jason throwing chairs.
Yeah.
No, not throwing chairs for me.
Well, Scott, the pressure's on. It's up to you for a wheel pick. Two of them.
There's never any pressure on me at all. I don't consider this pressure. I don't want to brag, but I've been doing it for a long time, and this is fun.
Yeah.
So I got to run a stack here, and I'm going between two stacks, and I don't want to be chalk. I'm trying to take this different than as a tournament. So I'm going to start with CeeDee Lamb, who ate up the Jets last week, and 7,700 on DraftKings. And if he eats up the Jets, what can he do against Arizona? And look, the defense dominates, but if I'm playing in a tournament, I want to differentiate myself a little bit. So I don't think Dak Prescott is going to be widely rostered. I'm going to go with that pairing because you need that if I'm playing in a tournament. And I play tournaments more than cash games. So I'm going to go Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to put a star on my head, 6,600 for Prescott, 7,700 for Lamb. I know that you want to correlate and run it back on the other side, but I'm not picking any Cardinals.
No, I like it. You have a potential here for low ownership, potentially with Dak. I mean, because they might fear blowout. So, but people say that. Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah,
it's just like you push a button. Like people say. There's two things that are untrue, and I used to go back to Jason the second all the time. It's going to be a blowout. I don't want them. If it's going to be a blowout, how do you think they get there?
Exactly.
Second off, with running backs, I always used to tell Jason this. People say, oh, they'll be a big in the second half. He's going to run the ball around a lot because they're running out the clock. That normally actually doesn't happen in a lot of NFL games because if a team gets up big, they pull the running back and let somebody else run out the clock. Or sometimes, they just go 3 and out and let the other team try to play catch up.
I agree. How are you going to get to 35 points? It doesn't matter if it's 4 quarters or 2. Right. So I don't get scared of blowouts. I'm with you. And that's why I'm saying it could be low ownership because you have that perspective online. But Tony.
Well, playing against you guys is like playing in a tournament. So I got to go,
different,
a little bit different.
Yep.
Got to go different. So it's me, right, Dave?
Yes, it is.
All right, brother. So I'm going to stick with my Seattle play, and I'm going to give me my man Kenneth Walker at the running back position.
Love it.
Again, This dude is an absolute bulldozer, man. Like, and we all know. Listen. People are so worried about Charbonnet this, Charbonnet that. Man, Kenneth Walker's the guy. And if you know Pete Carroll, Scott knows Pete Carroll. He's going to ride this running back as much as he can, as long as he trusts him. And he shows that he can really trust him, man. This kid's like a pinball out there, bouncing off people, breaking tackles. I think he's like third for running backs and breaking tackles so far this year. So give me him at 6,200.
He's more than just a bulldozer. He can score from anywhere on the field, and that's why I like Kenneth Walker. Good value at 6,200. I do think Charbonnet is going to get worked in more as the season goes on, though, because Pete, ever since Marshawn Lynch, has not had like that one true feature back. He searched for it, but in recent years, he's tried to have guys complement each other. I think eventually it might be at least a 65-35 split, but we're not seeing that yet.
Dave, I know you're taking notes. Just write down that Tony is specifically drafting Seahawks players to get on Scott's good side. So, future endorsements and stuff like that, they can work together on. But
it's working. It's working.
It's working for sure.
Yeah.
And maybe you guys haven't drafted a quarterback, so maybe I'll pick Russell Wilson at the end.
I drafted Dak Prescott. He plays quarterback, Jason.
No, I'm saying you guys all drafted your quarterbacks. I don't need to draft mine, so maybe I'll keep the suspense of Russell Wilson to the end. But look, I might need a swap out on this player. He's currently questionable. I think he does play. Tyreek Hill, pretty good at football. I really don't need to explain why he's good. Most unguardable player in the NFL, I think, at least. And this young coach is finding ways to, out gimmick, Kansas City. And they got this guy lining up all over the place, doing crazy things. He's wide open. He's fast. And Waddle might be out too. So he's getting all these targets with Waddle in the game. If Waddle's out for any reason, Denver is not that great defensively. They've been in shootouts the past couple weeks, high scoring games. So give me Tyreek. If he is out, I'm going to need to take somebody else because he didn't practice today or he's limited today. But I think he's going to play. They're just resting him because there's not much left around if Waddle's not in. They literally have two guys as receivers, and it's like Berrios and Craig Haft and guys that, they're not even going to throw the ball to. So Hill, if healthy, and especially if Waddle's out, should have another monster game this week.
He should. I agree. I'm going to stick with a little game plan that didn't necessarily work for me last week, but this guy's getting all the snaps, all the runs, all the touches. I'm going to go with Travis Etienne. He's going against the worst rush defense in the league in the past 3 years, and they decided this year they're still going to be the worst. Ranked 32nd against the run. I don't know how they fix it. And I think Doug knows coming off a brutal game, talking Doug Peterson, brutal game against the Chiefs. He's got to get back to basics. I'll go Travis Etienne as my running back here, and then I'm going to fill it in with a receiver. He's fourth most target shares this year. I don't care who's at quarterback for him. I might even prefer Minshew. Give me Michael Pittman. I really like how much he's being involved in that offense, and he's got a good price, 6,200. I think is fair for him.
Well then,
good
PJ.
picks, man. They can definitely work out. I'm going to stick to value here. Unlike Scott, he's trying to win a tournament. I'm just trying to beat you three guys. So
playing against you three is like a tournament.
Okay, all right. So look, due to injuries and due to Kamara being out for a couple more weeks, it looks like this dude Tony Jones is going to be filling in for Jamal Williams. The kid who was supposed to kind of be backing up Jamal Williams is not going to be around either. So it's Tony Jones.
Kendry Williams is going to play.
Okay. If he's going to play, then we got to worry about that. But I think he finds the way in the end zone. Green Bay, not great defensively. I am a little bit worried about, Taysom Hill potentially going there and, being a battering ram, taking some touchdowns away. At 4,500, I think pretty good value at a running back spot. I like Pollard up top. I don't think I can get there with this build or my main build. I think Pollard's the best running back on the board. I like the Bijan call. ATN works as well, but there's not much after that. A lot of these people are I like Kenneth Walker. You guys took a lot of good running backs off the board. So I'm going to go value. hopefully he has like a Zach Moss impersonation this week and kind of does what he did last week and finds his way in the end zone a couple times.
Yeah, I would take Tony Jones at like if he was 700 on DraftKings. The guy is like a complete journeyman. You know, yeah, he got in the end zone twice last week, but there's no way I'm using him on DraftKings. What did that guy have? Like 8 carries for 9 yards or something like that? Kendra Miller's going to play this week. Tony Jones was desperation. It's like he doesn't break any tackles. He doesn't have any explosion. He's played for like 40 different teams in like 4 years. It's like there's no way I would use Tony Jones.
Hey, Tony.
He's won $1 million. I have.
Yeah. You know, well, Tony, you're up next, but I need to make some breaking news. I need Scott on every week. This is the best. This is great.
We already knew we were gonna love this. You know what I mean? Like we already knew, man. Nah, man. Listen, I love it. I do. It's also good to have somebody else on our side every once in a while that knows the anguish that we deal with every day. But that's so. I'm gonna go. Listen, I was gonna go another running back here, but I can't. I gotta go. But the guy's got 20 targets in 2 weeks. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It took him a few years to get to where we all thought he was going to be, and that's my man Nico Collins. I know Sticks is going to be smiling right now because Nico's his guy. He was hyping up Nico 2 years ago. He was hyping up Nico last year. Listen, I don't care who they play. If they're behind, if they're ahead, all I know is he's going to get 8 to 10 targets every single game in this offense. So for 5,300, to me, could be one of the best wide receivers on the slate.
Love it. I really do. I think Nico coming out of Michigan was a talent, but now he's really starting to show it. And like you said, it doesn't matter up or down. Stroud needs somebody to throw to, and he relies on Nico. Great pick. All right, Scott.
All right, I'm going to go here with the rookie to finally break out. I think Jahmyr Gibbs finally gets a good share of the workload this week, and I like him a lot at running back at 6,600 against the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons defense has played better, but I just think that this is going to be a good week for Gibbs. He actually, for you guys who've been watching football for a while, he reminds me of Jamal Charles. He can be efficient. Yeah. He makes people miss in the open field. He's versatile, etc. And he's my guy for at running back. Then I'm going to go to value. I know people have been down on him, and the quarterbacking play has not been good. But this is the week when Kyle Pitts gets on the board, and he's a good value at 3,900. That Detroit pass defense can be carved up by tight ends. Last week, the 3 Seattle tight ends, 9 catches for 132 yards against the Lions.
So first with Gibbs, he's special. Like it just you can see it, and like we see with rookie running backs, they're going to get better and better as the year goes. You already mentioned Charbonnet, but David Montgomery even came out and said, "Hey, my thigh hurts. I'm probably going to be out a couple weeks." Like I think this could be that week. Really love the Gibbs pick. Jason, I'm going to let you comment on Scott's picks.
No, Gibbs is a guy that's on my. He will be on my cheat sheet. He should, if he gets the workload, this kid is explosive. We saw the burst. We saw him breaking tackles, cutting people up. Him and Bijan, this could be their breakout weeks. This is the weeks that kind of line up for them. So I agree with both the picks, man. I'm not a hater like you guys are.
No, that was your chance. We were giving you your chance, but all right. I appreciate the real Jason. Jigsaw, Tony, you're up.
Well, here's the real fast about Kyle Pitts, man. Like I was thinking the same thing, right? Like under 4,000, like you just gotta hit on him, right? But it's not his fault that I'm a look guy, man. Dave, we've talked about this on Sirius. I don't like the way Arthur Smith wears his hat, and now I don't know what the hell that mustache is that he's got. He's got to be one of the most idiotic looking head coaches in the NFL. Like some guys you look at, you're like Mike Tomlin. That dude's an NFL coach. Arthur Smith looks like he should be bagging groceries at the local seafood market. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't even look like a head coach. So I think that's the problem with Kyle Pitts. So once Arthur Smith goes, I think Pitts will be okay. But listen, I'm going to go with another running back here. Since Scott didn't take him, I tried a little value here and it worked a little bit. I'm going to go with B-Rob. Listen, man, I was down on Brian Robinson. I didn't think that he had what it took to be that every down running back. And I didn't know if they were actually going to let Antonio Gibson just be a third down guy or a gadget guy. And listen, Riverboat Ron has shown that, 18 and 19 basically just gets 20 carries a game. It's going to continue, man. It's going to continue at home against Buffalo, who, listen, they've been suspect on the defensive side of the ball so far. So I like B-Rob at 5,800.
I got a pick that I think Scott can agree on. I hope he agrees to this one. I'm going to go defense here. Can't really afford the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are the number one defense on the board. They've proved that, and they get a nice matchup against Arizona. So one of you guys go out there and get them. But if you don't go to Dallas, I think the Patriots against Zach Wilson is appetizing. They were able to contain Miami to some extent. I think they'll be able to contain the Jets here. They got to make a move, for any Jets fans out there. I'm not a diehard Jet fan. I'm a fan of the team, but I don't get upset when they lose or throw stuff because it's only the Mets that do that to me. But they really
because it happens all the time. So, why waste that emotion?
Yeah. But if they can make a move, this defense is so good on the Jet side that they just need someone that can, maybe get the ball down the field for 200 yards a game without throwing picks and fumbles and bad decisions. They have a really good team. It sucks to what happened with Aaron Rodgers here, but I think any single week you see Zach Wilson out there, you just line up a defense against him. It really doesn't matter. I think New England's actually got a good team and a good defense here. They should blow this team out and contain them and run the ball a bunch. So I'm going to go with the Patriots D.
You scared me because I had D lined up and I had it circled. And the one I wanted is on the other side of the field in that game.
Yep.
I like the New York Jets a lot this weekend. Mac Jones has proven to me he doesn't show up till the fourth quarter. Start throwing the ball then. I think they have 4 or 5 turnovers. Slay had the pick 6 in week 1. Miami forced 4 sacks and 2 turnovers against them. I'm not sure the Patriots are good. I'm not, but I know the Jets aren't, and they're going to have to play a defensive game. At 2,800, I like the Jets. Jason, I do like the Patriots as well, but I'll take the discount there with the Jets. I needed to kind of spend down on one pick. And then I'm going to go to another team where this game has a good scoring environment and pair up my running backs here with Javonte Williams. He's just been seen. I think he's got 25 carries in 2 weeks. Denver's defense is bad. I mean, I don't know how it just turned this bad all of a sudden, but the 30th in DBOA. So what do you expect them to do against Miami? Probably get lit up. Well, that means Javonte is probably going to be a good run back option. So I'll take Javonte this week. I think at 5,500, it's a really good price. So, I feel comfortable with that pick.
There you go. I'm going to flip the script, and I said I probably can't go out there and grab this guy, but I'm going to go with Tony Pollard instead. Pollard, this should be kind of his breakout game too, as long as Arizona can show some fight here early. He got 25 rush attempts last week, only 72 yards rushing, but that was against the Jets. Giants game, that game got out of hand so quickly. He still got 2 touchdowns, 8 targets in the Jet game too. So he's being used on both sides, catching and obviously running the ball. So I think he has a breakout game. He can get you that 30-point upside. There's too many injuries at the running back position, and there's some injuries on the wide receiver position, and you guys took a lot of the good players. So I got the salary now. I'm going to go Pollard, 8K, and they should just maintain a strong lead here and hopefully get Pollard over 100, 2 touchdowns, something to that extent.
We saw what Saquon did before they decided to run him for no reason at the end of the game. I know nobody's really talking about that and bent him backwards, but he lit him up. Pollard definitely has a good chance to light up Arizona as well. Tony.
Yeah, man, listen, I am, I got to get some more exposure in this Detroit and, in this Seattle, Carolina game. And, I was back and forth to how I wanted to do the lineup, and everything's working out. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to go with Tyler Lockett. I'm going to tie him up with my man Geno, so he can give me the triple threat of him, Geno, and Kenneth Walker in this game. Listen, Lockett 10 targets last week. He had an 80% catch to target ratio, caught 8 of them. Listen, average was low. He had 2 touchdowns. One thing that Lockett always seems to do is find the end zone in them little slants and them little wheel routes. So I really like Lockett this week.
The only receiver in the last 5 years in the NFL with 8+ touchdowns every season.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at that stat. That's a clip right there.
1,000 yards in the last 4 too.
That's a nice clip. I like that.
Yeah.
They won the game in overtime. Last week, questionable. Maybe they missed a holding call, but it doesn't matter. The scoreboard said 37-30.
If you have to grumble about a holding call, well, I've learned over the years that if you're grumbling about the refs 90% of the time, you didn't do enough else to win.
Oh.
You don't want to grumble about the holding call. Stop the drive, win the game in regulation,
Agree.
etc. And there was a big intentional grounding and went against Geno Smith. So anybody who wants to say anything about that, if you grumble about the refs most of the time, your team didn't do enough to win.
Except for last year's Super Bowl. But with that, Scott, you're up.
All right. Last year's Super Bowl. They lost, but hey, look.
Yeah.
You've seen your team go to 2 Super Bowls and win one.
Yes,
in your
I agree.
lifetime. It's not like you're a Jet fan, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, I wear
a
green
Lions
jersey.
fan. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going against Jason with this one. Kendra Miller, 4,300. He's projected to be a full go, according to published reports. There's a reason why they drafted this kid. The Packers are 30th against the run after the first 2 weeks. I know it's small sample size, but they continue to be bad against the run. I'm pairing Kendra Miller in the backfield. And I'm going to go back to the Seattle game. You guys talk about Lockett. I love Lockett. DK Metcalf, obviously going to draw a lot of defensive attention. This has been a bad pass defense for Carolina. But this is the bust-out week for Jackson Smith in Jigba. Okay, we saw 5 catches, 6 targets last week. And the reason why I like your Mike Williams pick is because in the NFL, when one receiver goes off, teams will try to get the other guy involved the next week. So we've seen Metcalf get the ball. We've seen Lockett do his thing. This is the week for Jackson Smith in Jigba. This is a good matchup to get him involved. The Seahawks drafted him because they were 20th in the NFL last year in third down conversion percentage. That is going to be his role. It's said on the NFL Network. It was great. I think Daniel Jeremiah said this, and he's going to do the dirty stuff over the middle. I say Jackson Smith the jig was 7 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown this week. 4,300 on DraftKings.
Get that prop. Where's that prop at? Let's get that up now.
We'll watch the video when that does come out, Scott. I love it. 43.
Hey.
Great price.
Week before the Super Bowl on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, I said Percy Harvin's going to return a kickoff for a touchdown.
Percy Harvin.
And it happened.
Yeah. Updated version of Percy Harvin, by the way, Kadarius Toney.
Percy Harvin's a lot better. Percy Harvin's a lot better than Tony. Not you, Tony. The Tony who can't catch balls.
That's all right. I'm glad he's dying.
There's a double entendre in there somewhere, but I won't go there.
Which, with that, it's over to you, TC.
I do. It's funny when you do these things prior and you do your research and I look at, Scott just sold me on Njigba at 4,300 compared to Lockett at 64, right? It's a huge value. So I'm going to try to make up that value a little bit with this pick, and I'm going to get me some Jordan Addison. I'm going to get that exposure to the Minnesota game at 5,500. Listen, he scored in his first 2 games. And the one thing about Jordan Addison is exactly what we all know and exactly what we came into this offseason saying. Justin Jefferson commands the coverage. TJ Hawkinson commands the coverage. 2 guys are going to be recipients of that nickel corner or, that exposed blown coverage. It's going to be either KJ Osborne or it's going to be Jordan Addison. And for this game and look at the last two, he's giving you at least 5 targets. And the one thing I like about him is his average. He's averaging 21 yards per catch. So it's showing his big playability. And, they look for him in the red zone often. He's very consistent so far. So give me Jordan Addison.
Yeah, similar to you guys, exposure in this Atlanta game is needed. Detroit, for the most part, has been involved in shootouts the last couple games. You get the no-frills dome game. You don't have to worry about rain or conditions like that. Kyle Pitts, I know, is on a couple people's radar. I think he's a good tight end in this game. But I'm going to give the kid London a shot here. 7 targets last week, 6 receptions, 67 yards, got a touchdown. We all know what Arthur Smith is trying to do, win games by any means necessary. Don't really care who wins and what they did. They'll kick 7 field goals if they have to win a game. But I think they have to play a little bit more up pace. Jared Goff is legit, man. He's putting up points. St. Brown doing his thing. Now Gibbs has his breakout party. So I think they're going to have to turn up a little bit and throw the ball. Nice little value at 5K. Gets you 15, 20 points. You're good. If he has a breakout game, he has upside for 25, 30 if you can get over 100 yards and get in the end zone. So give me London, 5K, simple value to beat you 3.
Ah, nice. And he did score a touchdown last week, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. I like it. I got 2 more. I got to figure out. I got roughly about 5K per player. And 5K is a good range to be with three players left to pick. Few of them, I could go a few different ways. In this one, I'm going with Tony knows this. I'm not the biggest Justin Fields fan. And the stuff that he said today was not good. And then they had to send him back out there to apologize for it and then spin it against the media. But one thing I know, they're gonna try and make him earn it on the field. And I'm gonna go with DJ Moore. I think versus Kansas City has actually showed up well against the run this year, not well against the pass. I think they're gonna try and make Fields show you he can throw. It's a primetime game, right? Chicago doesn't get many of these. 425. They got Mahomes coming into town. I like DJ Moore this week, and he did well last week, almost 20 DK points. And I think he could even do a lot better this week against that Kansas City team. So I'll take DJ Moore, and then I'm going to pair it up with Alexander Madison. And it's going to be similar to what Tony did there. I'm going to take running back, receiver, and quarterback in this game. I just think with 54 points, I'm invested, and I'll invest it on the Viking side. So back to you, Jay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go tight end since you guys all picked your quarterbacks already. I usually typically go value. Don't mind the Hawkinson call. Kelsey hasn't really showed up yet. Andrews, a little bit banged up. I do like Evan Ingram a bit at 4,800 to get some exposure to Jacksonville. But I'm gonna go down a little bit more. Kincaid, the rookie, has been getting targets. Hasn't been doing much with the targets. I think he finds his way in the end zone this week. Washington has found ways to stay in games. Buffalo has found ways to make certain games competitive, which they shouldn't have been. Even lost to the Jets somehow with Wilson there. So, look, I think Kincaid at the price tag has a nice safe floor. Ertz is in play as well. I don't really like the matchup against Dallas, but they should be behind throwing the ball a bunch. They're trying to get that guy moved sometime soon. But Cardinals impressive, man. They've really done a great job of being in games to the very end and then blowing it right at the end, which is exactly what I guess they're trying to do. And somehow it's been working out. And I don't know if you guys saw the Million Maker last week, who won it, but it was a Daniel Jones to Saquon Barkley stack. And that looked terrible in the first half. They barely had 10 points combined, and then boom, they go off. So sometimes these ugly lineups, whether it's before lock or even at halftime, could look bad. They turn around and look good and basically got somebody $1 million last week. So congrats to that guy. But Kincaid for me, cheap price, should be a good game for him.
2 things I'll say. 3,400, beautiful pick. Anybody in your seasonal league is dumb enough to cut Kincaid because people are impatient on rookies. I love that pick, Jason.
Scott,
secondly, though, I certainly disagree with you about Zach Ertz. That's another thing. Just because a team is playing from behind doesn't mean that they can effectively play from behind. And when you're talking about the Arizona Cardinals against the Dallas Cowboys, who shut out the Giants and have allowed only 10 points to 2 New Jersey teams so far. No way do I want to any part of Zach Ertz this week. There's no upside. It's going to be like 6 catches for 20 yards at best. There's no way I want any.
And zero yak. By the way, zero yak.
Let me
Scott,
tell you
ask you one
something.
question about season long.
Hold on, I got to go on about this. Sorry. Do you guys remember who was the defensive coordinator for the 2 Seahawks teams that went to the Super Bowl?
Yes. Hazlitt?
No, it was Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn.
Defensive coordinator of the Cowboys. I know it's only 2 weeks, and a lot can happen. These Cowboys, the first 2 weeks, have been the closest thing that I've seen to the Legion of Boom on defense since.
I agree. And they've played Daniel Jones and Zach Wilson.
Yeah, so and now they get
good teams beat who they're supposed to. I know you Eagle fans don't want to give them credit, but good teams beat who they're supposed to beat like that. Jason, I'm sorry, you wanted to ask me a question.
Yeah, question. And talking about season long for a second. What do you do if you're a Justin Fields owner?
I think you hold. The rushing upside's always going to be there, and he's
you
just.
Think he bounces back though? Like people are drafting this guy high. Maybe the 4th or 5th quarterback or higher. You think they get that value? Does he bounce back?
You can't overreact after 2 weeks. I think he's only going to get better as a passer. Brian Baldinger was putting some film out there where he was missing wide open receivers and taking them off, but they got to. And he comes out with coaching. It's like they got to get on the same page there. But DJ Moore, he does his thing. I think at worst you have a decent floor with Justin Fields. If he gets better, you have the upside.
And the one thing I'll say, Jason, on that, when I say I don't like Justin Fields, it's as an NFL prospect. I got to be clear. As a fantasy player, I completely agree with Scott. They're not going to take him out.
They're not going to take him out, but I don't know. I think you hold, but I also think you might have somebody better week to week, depending on the matchup, than Justin Fields. Like, you have that rushing upside, but I seen the video that Scott's talking about. There's like multiple guys, like he's looking down the middle. Yep. He's wide open for the end zone. Like you don't even attempt to throw that way. Something right there is kind of broken. We saw the upside with his rushes.
't 2 games. But and Tony, I know you were a fan. What's your point? I'd like to hear your perspective too.
I honestly, I don't think it has anything to do with Justin Fields. I honestly think that sometimes, we're watching it right now in Philadelphia, right? So we're watching it with Brian Johnson, who all of a sudden wants to recreate the wheel when it doesn't need to be recreated, right? Like stick to what works. And for some reason, we watched last year, Justin Fields didn't start to break out, so that allowed him just to be Justin Fields. Now all of a sudden they want to go backwards again and try to make him a pocket passer, which he's not, and let him create, right? So I think there's a lot of bad issues and processes in place right now. And once they kind of just let him ball out, he'll be fine. So I just think right now there's just an issue on that team with the coordinators and the head coach. And I think once that clears itself up, he'll be back to where he needs to be.
Yeah, don't make these guys pocket passers. Look what happened to Robert Griffin. And I heard in the offseason, that they weren't going to try to do that. They are trying to do that. What's interesting when you watch Anthony Richardson, though, he's already doing a good job of decision making and taking what defenses give him. If anything, his accuracy is scattershot, and maybe he can improve on that. But I already like Richardson longer term than I like Fields.
Yep,
1,000%, and I agree with that. Tony, what do you got? We got 2 picks left for you, and then Scott finishes his 2.
Yeah, listen, man. This is a team that I keep riding. I'm going to go defense here. And I think they're a value every single week. And they're a value because they have game breakers on the defense. And they have a really good linebacking core, anchored by Franklin. I really like him, man. He's one of my IDP standouts. He just gets 10 tackles every week. It doesn't matter. Give me the Indianapolis Colts. They're 2,400. I know that they're going on the road. They're going to Baltimore. But listen, Baltimore hasn't really been blowing it out the water right now as we speak either, right? They have a running back issue. We'll see if Gus Edwards can kind of take over. Lamar hasn't been like the man yet again. So I'm going to take Colts at 2,400.
defense is fun to get different, and those are the types that typically can win it. So nice different pick there. Scott, what do you got to finish out your flex and your defense?
It's nice because the two picks that I want fell to me at the end. I'm going to do like Jason. I'm going to run 12 personnel with 2 tight ends. I'm going to go. This will be the week for Sam Laporta to break out against the Atlanta Falcons at 4,000. I like this kid. He could be that good replacement for Hawkinson. He's not afraid of anything. He breaks tackles. He can gain some yardage after the catch. Like him against Atlanta. Now I'm going to go homer on defense. I'm going to go with the Seahawks for 3,200 against Carolina. There's a shot they could face Andy Dalton this week because of the ankle injury to the rookie, Bryce Young. But if not, it's still a good pick. I know the Seahawks have had their pass rush problems, and you look for sacks and you look for turnovers. But, for this kid with a questionable receiving core to go into Lumen Field with that noise. Now, look, I know professionals are supposed to do that, but for a rookie quarterback to go into Seattle, against a good back seven, I think some of the pass rush problems have been up front. A really good back seven, I think that secondary is better than what we saw in week 1. They don't have the receivers to challenge it. They've only scored 27 points in 2 games, and their first road game against Atlanta, they had 3 turnovers. Last week, you saw the big hit by Nwosu, forcing the fumble. You saw the Trey Brown return for a touchdown. I'm going with the Seahawks at 3,200 to finish it out.
And I think you'd prefer to see Bryce Young play in this game over Andy Dalton. At least he could manage it, probably that noise. But I think Bryce Young has some growing pains, and it's not a great place to grow. As for Sam Laporta, took him last week. Love him this year. Love him. So good picks. I think in the end, we're going to see him as a $5,000-$6,000 tight end at some point. I really do. Maybe not 6, but definitely 5s. So, Tony, over to you to close it out.
I have to give it to him, man. The king snuck one by me. Listen, man, I got to give it because I was taking Laporta and I took the defense because I said, he's already got Pitts. He's not going to go double tight end. And what does he do? He sneaks in with Laporta. That's okay. I'll go with my 1B. Listen, I'm going to go with Hunter Henry. I know the Jets have a really good defense, but at the same time, this is, for all intents and purposes, the number 1 receiver on this team right now. Kendrick Bourne's getting the targets, but he can't catch anything, right? He's 11 targets, he catches 6. That stinks. It's terrible. Give me Hunter Henry, who's always open, it seems like, in the red zone. 2 touchdowns, and he's getting consistency, man. He's 90% target to catch ratio. 7 targets, 6 targets, lock it in.
By the way, if I might pivot from Laporta on Sunday, okay? Good value here. If Jalen Waddle doesn't play, I'm going River Craycraft at 3,400.
Yeah.
Tua likes him. And then I can move up from the Seahawks defense to, say, the Ravens at 3,700.
Okay.
Nice. Good calls there. We will get to a couple of closeout picks when we get that we haven't mentioned yet, and we'll go to everybody's favorites that weren't drafted. But with that, Jason, you got a quarterback, and I don't know. There's one that's 5,200. Is that where you're going?
No. I'm not going 5,200. I was really going to go. I was trying to stick it to Scott as best I could. I wanted to play Russell Wilson just for the fun of it, but
Zach is there for 4,900.
Yeah, right.
You could combine him with Alan Lazard if you want.
No. I'm not playing Dobbs either. I'm not playing Tannehill. But a little birdie in my ear earlier this week told me about Ritter in a matchup. I already got London here. Ritter at 5,000. In other builds, this build typically would, if you're paying down at 5K for Ritter, you're really paying up for Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson. Those are the first 2 guys I want in my lineup this week. So I'm going to discount at quarterback and discount at running back to go out there and pay up for Jefferson, pay up for Tyreek. I really think they almost have like a 25-point floor, 35-point upside here. We've seen Tyreek go up for like 45, 46. So Ritter, he's going to run the ball. He's going to be in a high-paced game at $5,000. You really only need 15, 20 from him. And if he's running the ball 6, 7 times, he's no Anthony Richardson. He's no, Justin Fields of last year, but he got 10 attempts last last week for 39 yards in a 25-24 game. So say this game ends up going, 35-30 or something along those lines against Detroit. He could run the ball, 10 times for 40, 50, get in the end zone one way or another. And hopefully throws for over 200 yards like he did last week. Hopefully no picks. At 5K, you're not expecting much here. You got the little stack with London. It's not my primary stack. My primary stack is going to be this Minnesota game. Scott, I do got a question for you about Minnesota. They go out there and grab Cam Akers. And then you have Cleveland go out there and grab Kareem Hunt. When do you think those guys end up being effective on their teams? Is it this week, next week, or is it potentially never because, Madison holds on to the job or Ford holds on to the job?
I think it's potentially never fantasy-wise with Hunt because, they got rid of him in the preseason. Ford is their guy. They know that injuries can happen at any time, and to make Ford the number 2, they have to. The front office the brass has to say, at some point, if we have to let this guy start, we're comfortable with him, and they come out and double down on it publicly, saying he is the future back. I think a complimentary role for Hunt with Akers. I think a lot of people would disagree with me. Maybe fantasy receipts will go off on me on Twitter for saying this, but which is cool. That's fine. I think Cam Akers still may have some upside if he gets the right coaching that backs him. I was a Madison backer in the preseason. Obviously, I'm wrong. I think the Vikings think they're wrong. I think it's at least a timeshare with Akers with a slight chance to overtake him for the starting job.
I'll say this: being a Florida State guy, knowing Cam Akers, he needs some coaching. That's exactly right. And after seeing Madison fumble in Philly, I think you have an exact point there, Scott. I think there's a chance that Akers is like that guy that was last year and could carry you down the stretch in a fantasy league. So if he's out there in your season-long leagues, I take a flyer on him, no doubt about it.
I agree, man. I agree. And to the Kareem Hunt, like so many people had asked me yesterday, my son being one of them who had Nick Chubb and was like, Dad, should I go all in on Ford? What about Kareem Hunt? I said, listen, man, I look at it this way. It's week 3. There's a reason why Kareem Hunt didn't sign anywhere, right? There's a reason why he's not on a roster. All they did was bring him in because they are more comfortable with him as a backup than Pierre Strong, right? I mean, that's exactly what they did. So this is going to be Ford's job to lose, so I'm not worried about Hunt at all.
All right. I like it. Great questions here. I'm going to finish out the Draftkast, and then we'll go around the table real quick and just mention any other picks you like this week. Joe DiCarlo checking in, talking about Stroud. Guess what? I'm talking about Stroud too. I'm going with Tank Dell to finish out my picks this week. Tank, and many of you may know this, but if you don't, actually out-targeted Nico Collins last week, 10-9. He brought 10 in for 72 yards too. He's got a little bit of thigh injury, so there's some risk here. But right now on a Wednesday, I'm willing to take 3,600 with a guy that's going to be in there. No Brown's out. He's out for a couple more weeks. As long as he's healthy and can suit up, he's going to be the number 2, number 3 behind Woods and Nico, and he's going to get tons of targets because, as Joe said, 91 attempts by CJ in the first 2 weeks. I like this Houston passing game from a fantasy perspective and nothing else. So, guys, I don't know who's feeling the most confident right now. I will tell you, I'm glad I got shares in the largest scoring game, and then I went a little wider than probably I wanted to and paired off nothing else, just 1s and 2s. Jason, how you feeling?
Not feeling great this week. Felt a lot better last week. Didn't really want to get stuck with Ritter. He wasn't the direction I wanted to go. Obviously, missing out on Justin Jefferson. It's a guy you want in your lineup too. So Scott grabbed, the top guy on the board. But shocked that nobody grabbed Keenan Allen. I think Keenan Allen's been explosive all year long. I went Mike Williams to get the discount, but kind of surprised nobody grabbed him. I think the Patriots D can step up. I think Tony Pollard, strong play here. Scott got me a little bit worried with Tony Jones because earlier today it looked like the rookie wasn't going to be, playing. But if he's got a full go, that definitely changes that pick. So, hey, I can still make things happen with Jones if the rookie does play, he's not going to get every touch. So, hopefully,
Yeah,
New Orleans
Jones will
scores
get
some
4 carries for 4 yards.
Okay.
How many points do you get for that?
We'll take some bets, Scott. If you want to take some bets, I'm down. I'm
That
down to
Kendry
take some
Miller
bets.
outproduces Tony Jones.
No. I don't want to
Please
take that bet. I don't want to take that bet, but maybe we'll get something cooking by the end of the show.
That's what you were inferring. I wanted to jump all over that.
You know what? I think it has to happen. But with that, Tony, how you feeling about your team?
Listen, man, I'm feeling really good. I had to pivot twice. That's about it. Like I talked about, Laporta to Hunter Henry, and I had to pivot from Mike Williams to Jordan Addison. But that's okay. The rest of my build I like. But I want to throw something out there, man. Like everybody that follows me and knows me, and Jason laughs all the time when he brings up like Devin Duvernay, and I try to pick these diamonds in the rough, right, every week. And I know Scott talked about a couple guys who was like in Jigba's his week, Gibbs is his week. I'm feeling a Tajay Spears week. Listen, here's the thing. Off season we heard all the trade talk about Derrick Henry. Dave, me and you in Philadelphia, we bring back the unfortunate memories of DeMarco Murray, who was completely washed right after his 300 touch season. We see running backs continually be going downhill after they get those 300 touches, and Derrick Henry has looked slow. The best thing he's done is a stiff arm. He's averaging 3.8 yards a carry. And the one thing that Tajay Spears got this week was that vote of confidence and that glow from Mike Vrabel, who has been, I say this all the time. I don't know if everybody agrees with me, but I watch these coach conferences all the time because they give you these nuggets that you have to watch, right? He was glowing over Tajay Spears. So I'm just saying this could be one of those battles in the dog pound in Cleveland, back and forth. And I think Tajay Spears, he doubled his touches from week 1. I think he's going to double them again in week 3.
Beautiful.
All right, Scott, how are you feeling about your team? You got any diamonds in the rough that we didn't really hit on in this big build here?
I feel good about it, and I usually feel good about it until about 1:15 Eastern on Sunday, when I realize that every friggin' lineup that I put in only makes my money back, because there's just too many people in the field, even if it's a single entry, and then somebody like Tony Jones goes off for 4 touchdowns, and I realize that I'm nowhere near the daily player that Jason Mizrahi is. So I feel good now. We're recording this on a Wednesday night, and I'm good at seasonal, but I've never had that big win in DFS. But you know what happens? I give these players out to other people and they win, and I guess that's why I do this professionally. So I don't feel good about my own lineup, but take chunks out of it for whoever's watching, and it can help you win. And I guess that's the most important thing. And the two guys I didn't mention, another rookie. Now look at these rookie running backs. There's a lot of reports that Roschon Johnson's going to get a lot of more work this week. 4,700 on DraftKings. And there's going to be low ownership on Jerome Ford, I think, because of the matchup against Tennessee. But at 4,800, that could be a difference maker in tournaments. If he doesn't get the yardage, he can still catch passes out of the backfield and get in the end zone. So there are 2 value plays I like.
Great. And to build on that, I got a running back report column coming out, so I won't even talk about running backs, but I think Tennessee is so bad against the pass that I really think Elijah Moore is a great play this week. I couldn't find a way to fit him in with the 4,700. I think even Deshaun Watson at quarterback should be in your player pool. So those are 2 I also like this week, but I'm with you at how cheap Ford will be. So I think, don't be scared of the number 1 rush defense, right? He's going to be the guy that gets 70%. I feel good saying that. Target shares. Jason, you got anything?
I got a question for Scott real quick. It's a selfish question. You just mentioned Roschon Johnson, who I've heard reports things are looking good for the kid. I got Herbert in a season-long team, and I got Gus Edwards on my bench. It's between Herbert and Gus Edwards. So win daily league, 14-teamer, full point PPR. You're the season-long fantasy king. I haven't asked you many questions this year so far, but that's one of the tough questions I have this week on one of my teams. So what are you thinking?
I go Gus Edwards, especially now with Justice Hill not playing. He could get a significant workload. I think they move the ball, and he could always give you touchdowns. The possibility of 1-2 touchdown runs. Maybe he's complemented by Melvin Gordon, but Melvin Gordon would have been a threat 6 years ago, but he's not now.
Okay, appreciate that, Scotty.
Sure.
Slide him in, bro. Sliding him in.
Slide them in. That's what she said. So with that,
Got Steve Carell over here.
no FCC rules apply here, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but listen, man, this has been great. For everybody that tuned in, we greatly appreciate it. Want to give a big shout out to the King there. He's wearing that branded hat. We love it. Make sure you give him a follow at Scotty the King. Follow him over at the Game Day, man. He's dropping content every single day. You hear him on Sirius XM, bro. And again, his son kicking ass in NASCAR DFS. Scotty, what's his Twitter handle again?
That's Sean Engel is Sean E247.
There, 247, which means he's winning 24/7. Gotta love it, man. For everybody, as always, make sure you're liking, subscribing to the channel. Make sure you're checking out that new site, man. We are kicking a lot of things out and putting a lot of new things in. So a lot of different content on windailysports.com. We get the free trial for a week. You can get over there right now and do that. But as always, man, good luck to everybody, the audience, to the players right here. I still feel like there's some jigsaw heat coming out this week. As always, we're going to go from 2 to 1. So as always, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll catch you back here next Wednesday.